Hello, welcome to the channel. My name's Ro and I'm from Argentina. I'm also a writer. And today I'm gonna be discussing the movie Moxie because I've watched it like a few days ago and I've watched it again last night so I could actually say something proper about it because I needed to refresh my mind on some points. So I'm gonna go through it. Stick with me if you want to know. Okay, so now let me tell you my point to make in this video. This is not going to be a review that's going to explain to you what the movie is about. Like, I'm not gonna talk about the movie as a whole, but I'm gonna talk about the discussion that I think that it's started to, and it's actually making a good job at doing it because we need to have this conversation, and it is a good introduction in it. I mean, like, it's pretty well done. It doesn't go that deep, but the discussion is there and it needs to be had, so at least there it is. One thing that I'm going to do is first I'm going to explain the overall point of the movie, and then I'm going to go through my notes and just tell you about a few things that I noticed. Before doing everything, I'm going to also show you one thing that I think that the movie couldn't get across because the character who was saying it was cut off when she was talking, and I would actually like people to read that book because it's so important and it just didn't come across, and I'm pretty sure that there's so many people who don't know that book, and there's so many who could actually get something from reading it because I've read it and it touches you deep, so I'm gonna explain that book and a little bit and how so before I trail off, because I tend to talk too much, so this is a very feminist movie, and yes, I mean, like, I know that there's people who are sort of not happy with the outcome, because that always happens. Not everyone can be happy, and I know that there are people who are adults like me who are actually watching it and just thinking maybe it didn't go that deep and all of that, but it is a movie about teenagers, and teenagers go through different things than adults do, and teenagers don't have the same conversations that adults do, and I think that because of that, the movie does a good job introducing the topic of feminism. Let me tell you one thing. I went through Tumblr. I found out about feminism through Tumblr. And I really liked it when I found it because it felt like something that was right, because it fought for equality both for men and women. So men and women together wouldn't have to suffer through the things that society had established throughout history. That's what feminism is to me. Stopping the hurting and the whole bunch of crap that happens because society has established something and it's damaging both for women and for men. That's what feminism is trying to do for me. Just put a top of equality in that. It's not only for women, it's also for men, so they don't have to, have to go on high standards and doing such an amount of bullshit stuff that doesn't have to qualify to them. I'm not gonna go deep on that either, so I'm just gonna say that that's the feminism that I know, that's the feminism that I defend, because I do believe I defend humans before everything. I defend humans, and I don't like when injustices happen, and there are so many injustices happening to women and there are injustices happening to men, because things like, and I'm going deep, but things like domestic violence not only happen to women, they happen to men also, and it has to be acknowledged and it has to be talked about, and it doesn't have to be shoved aside in the sense of, oh my god, yes, because you're a man, you cannot cry about that and say all of those things because that's damaging. Saying that the movie talks about specifically about what feminism is for girls and how girls are exactly shoved aside, and how girls are mistreated because of the misogyny, because of a whole bunch of things that not only men do, but also women do. Because there are some women who have the power to change it and they don't. One example is the principal on this story. So why I'm saying that she's one of the examples of one of the women who actually have the power to change it and don't. The example is this. There's this character, Lucy, who is being harassed by one of the guys, Mitchell. He's a total jerk. And he literally spit on her drink. That's what happened. Yeah, he spit on her drink and he's actually harassing her. That's harassment. And she goes to the principal and she tells her, he's harassing me. And the principal goes like, no, he's bothering you. Because if you tell harassment, if you use that word, I have to fill paperwork, which I couldn't be bothered to fill. She doesn't say it in that manner, but it's what it feels like she's saying. And it's crap. You literally have the power to stop this bullshit from happening, and you're just deciding not to. And there are so many women like that in the world who are actually letting that happen because, I don't know, for internalized misogyny. There's so many people who, I don't know, are older than this generation who didn't grow up with this whole bunch of, I don't know, they grew up in feminism because feminism is not a new thing. You know, feminism has always been there ever since society was not fair for women. Has always been there, you know. I mean, like, it's the reason we women vote. It's the reason why we can go to university. It's the reason why we have an education, that we have a voice, you know. And it is an amazing thing that happened that gave us the right to be free, you know, even though, you know, society still has a lot of things to change. So I understand that there are women who don't actually acknowledge the fact that they, you know, can actually change things because they are in a position of power. And I also understand the position in which they are in because it is a complicated world, you know. But I think that it is awful that these things happening, and, you know, that there's people who are actually doing nothing to solve it. It's bullshit in every sense, and it shouldn't be happening. So that's one of the things that I have to say about it. Okay, so now that we've ranted about that, I just put that out there. Now we're gonna go to one of the things I actually want to talk about. So there's this girl, Lucy. She's not the main character, so yeah, don't get your hopes up. And she's sort of a secondary character, but she's also important. I mean, like, she's part of the group of friends, and I think that every single one of them is important in the story. I mean, like, Vivian is the main character, but honestly, everyone is a main character in their own story, so I'm just gonna say that. Anyways, Lucy is the new girl. So in the first day of class, there's the book The Great Gatsby. I haven't read it because I don't go to an American school. I haven't gone to an American school. We are not obliged to read that kind of book in my country because we have other literature in here. So we have Spanish literature, specifically Argentinian literature. So I have no idea what the book is about. I probably will never read it. I have watched a tiny bit of the movie. I don't really care. So I cannot really tell you what that story is about. I don't care. What the character goes through is like how women are represented, you know, like in this book. That's what the teacher asks, you know. And Lucy goes like, the real question is, why are we still reading this book? I mean, like, if you want to talk about the American dream, we should be talking about Sandra Cisneros, and she cuts it out there because this jerk, Mitchell jerk, just interrupts her. It is an awful thing. It is an awful thing. It doesn't matter who you are to interrupt a person when they are speaking. Like, you have to let them finish their ideas and then you speak, because that's not just just about how misogynistic you are, but how little manners you have. It's a horrible thing to do. Don't do it. Just shut your mouth. Just shut your mouth. Anyways, I want to talk about that book because I know that there's people who haven't read it, and it's always good to promote some sort of literature that it's interesting, you know. And Sandra Cisneros is a Latina writer, and she wrote this book that's written in the form of vignettes. Vignettes, it's like short chapters. It's sort of like in a novel format, and it's like short chapters that actually tell the story in a way in which it wouldn't be told. I'm crap at explanations, especially off the top of my head, but it's basically told in chapters that are quite small. That's why they're called vignettes. Anyways, this story tells the story of, I'm repeating myself. It goes along telling what goes through this Latina girl. She's a Latina girl and she lives with her family. It's a numerous family and they live in the USA. And they are sort of in the line of poverty. They don't have much space in their house, and it's quite hard to live in. It happens everywhere, and it's a very sad thing to do, to go through. I actually have no idea what people go through in the United States because, like I'm saying, I've never been there, so I don't actually know what Latinos go through when they're in the United States, which I feel like it must be really, really hard. I cannot speak from experience, but I can empathize with them, and I can just tell how often of an experience it must be from a cultural standpoint in which you're shoved aside and just treated unkindly. And unkindly is just one of the pretty words that I'm using, just to not say that it is violent, the way in which they are treated. There are many movies to talk about that, and there are a numerous amount of stories. This one in particular is titled The House on Mango Street. It was written by Sandra Cisneros, and seriously, if you want to check it out, I will recommend it 100% because it will give you an insight on what Latino people go through, and it's always good to know. So that's it for that book, and well, thank you for listening. Now that we've already talked about that and all of that, and we check those boxes, we can go and talk about the plot of the movie. I'm not going to be explaining the plot of the movie. I'm just going to be throwing certain things and saying and explaining why I think it is an important conversation that is being had and all of that. So the thing with this, the inciting incident, the incident that makes this whole movie start out, is that the boys are basically just ranking the girls and saying who is the hottest, who is the most bangable, who is the this and that, and all of it, And first of all, it is a horrible thing to do. I don't know why people even do that. Do you people really live like that? Because that's just, what? No entra en una cabeza, sinceramente. Anyways, the thing that happens with this movie is that's it. We follow Vivian then, and what Vivian decides to do, inspired by her mom, who had actually a past of activism. When she was 16, the only thing she wanted to do was just throw down the patriarchy and just, be a feminist and just fight for what was right. She gets inspired by her mom, and she decides to write a magazine, which is in the movie is called A Scene, actually, which is basically a short magazine that it's sort of like activism based and all of it. So she decides to make her own list and just say what the boys are and just how Mitchell and his friend are a piece of shit, and kind of that kind of crap. Because they're pieces of shit. I mean, like, one of Mitchell's friends in the story just tried, actually sat down in the seat of a girl before she sat down there, so she was sitting on his lap, and that's the reason why you decide that that's okay. I don't know, if guys do that, please punch them in the face, because they shouldn't be doing that. Just don't think, oh my god, no, it's okay. No, punch them in the face, because they deserve it. That's just as simple as that. They deserve the punch. Anyways, let's go on. So they started this magazine that's called Moxie, and a whole bunch of conversations started to be had in the school, because it's quite actually misogynistic. And I've heard, on the internet and a whole bunch of stuff like that. I've heard about the dress code. I've heard about things that happen, and just how girls cannot put on their clothes, and what they actually want to put on their clothes, because it will be too distracting for boys. It's just like, are you seriously that much of an animal that you just cannot see, I don't know, a little bit of skin? Like, do I have to cover my face as well for you to not be excited about seeing skin? Because it's just a stupid thing to do. I mean, like, I understand the dress code, but you cannot just make the girls respect the dress code, because how is it that right? How is it right that a guy can, I don't know, be shirtless and a woman cannot? Anyways, besides the dress code, I think that the movie shines a light on so many issues that actually happen. I haven't gone through these issues because so many of them don't happen in my country, or at least they didn't happen in the school that I went through, So I don't know, certain things happen in certain cultures. And we're discussing American culture in here, which is quite different to my own, but it's not so far off to say it, because, like I'm saying it, misogyny just happens everywhere. It just doesn't happen, it's just one thing that happens in the USA. It happens everywhere. It happens in every single country, and there's so many different cases of misogyny and of unfairness towards women. It happens in a whole bunch of things. But in regards of this movie, there are things that are happening to girls of color. There are things that are happening to women in general, and I don't know, just things like it touches on, on harassment, and then it touches on one of the things that happens by the end of the movie. Basically, it's just that it tells the story of a girl that was assaulted. It is a horrible thing, It just talks about many of the things that happen to women, and that they just have to shut their mouths because just people have it normalized. And it's not okay that it is normalized. It shouldn't be okay. It shouldn't be normalized. It's not alright for men to treat women like they're a piece of objectified nothing, It's not okay. It's simply not okay, and everyone knows that it's not okay. And they still do it, even though it's not alright. It's not right, and okay, before I get too angry with this, the reason why I think that this movie, especially because of all of these things, it's a good starter for the conversation. It's because, like I said, there are many women who are not like me, who I did not have to deconstruct myself. I was lucky enough that my mom let me be free in a way in which I didn't have to abide by society's rules. I constructed myself in the way that I thought it was fair, in the way that I thought it was right. I constructed my self-respect. I constructed the image that I wanted people to see me by, and how I wanted them to respect me. And I have never let anyone in my life mistreat me. I don't care if you're a man, a woman, even a person who is older than me. You have no right to mistreat me, because I'm a human being. And like I'm telling you, I was so lucky that my mom gave me the freedom to build myself up in a way that I can know my value. I am very lucky. I know that there's so many people in the world and so many girls out there who have been treated like they are worth nothing, and it is an awful thing to happen. I know that society puts a whole bunch of expectations on how you must look, and the standards of beauty, and a whole bunch of things that mean absolutely nothing, because you should be nurturing your worth, you should be nurturing your growth, you should be paying attention to those kind of things, So I think that it is bullshit, and I grew up knowing that it was bullshit, but there's so many girls that haven't. There's so many girls that are part of this horrible culture that treats them like they don't matter, and people just let it happen, and people just say things are like this, so you gotta let them be what they are, and it's not right that they are. It's not right, and it has to change. And the way in which we change them is through speaking through them, because you cannot fight hate with more hate. You have to fight hate and violence with education. And education comes along with respect, and we actually have to explain these things to people in a way in which they can understand them and empathize with the person that they're happening to, because there's so many things that in society are wrong, and people just say, oh, it's just not my problem, but it is your problem, because that's a human being and you're a human being. That's all that should matter, at least from where I see it. Everything that should matter for something for you to seem unfair is that they are mistreating another human being, and you shouldn't be letting that happen. It's not right. We all know it's not right. So, to tie up this thing, the reason why I think that this is an important conversation, this movie is a good conversation starter, is that it is putting the things out there. It's putting feminism out there, and it's treating it respectfully, and it's making the education on feminism be something not only digestible, but it's being fair to it. It's not covering everything that feminism covers, because there's so many things to talk about. You cannot just expect that a movie that is directed for people in their, I don't know, their 15s, just to know, just to get a whole of information thrown at them, because that's not the right way to do it either. You just cannot throw things on people's faces and just expect them to learn from them, because half of the things they're not going to remember. You have to do it periodically, and you have to teach them in the best way possible. Anyway, there's so many girls who haven't had the experience that I had, who hadn't been deconstructed yet. There's so many women who are adults now and haven't been deconstructed. Like I said, I did not have the need to deconstruct myself, because I always knew what my value was and where I stood regarding other women, and that I would never let anyone disrespect me or disrespect any other women in my presence, or even behind my back. That's not something that I'm gonna let happen. But there's so many people who just haven't been taught that. And this movie, there are gonna be kids watching this movie, and they're gonna learn about some injustices, and they're gonna want to dig deeper into that. So I think that this is actually a good conversation starter, because it's putting it out there in a respectful manner, and it's making something happen. It's making something happen. I mean, like, the movie actually just, I'm not gonna say that it inspires me, because it's not something that I hadn't seen before, but it actually just make me happy just to see all of these women sticking up for each other, because media especially is just so full of people who who treat women like they have to be pitted against each other instead of being friends. You know, like everything is this sort of competition, and you have to be better than the woman beside you. And that's not right. That's not how I think it is at all, and it shouldn't be either. So anyways, this is basically a rant. This is not scripted, so it's messy. It's just my thoughts on it, because I suck at saying what I think, and sometimes it just, especially with this kind of thought, because I just sometimes I don't know where to start, and I don't know where to finish, because there's so many things that pop into my head that I want to talk about, and I end up not talking about them. But you know, there's so many things that need to be talked about. And I know this movie is not whole. I mean, like, it hasn't touched deep, but at least it's talking about it, and the people who are going to see it are going to want to know more, you know, especially because of what I said. It was treated in a respectful manner, and when you approach people respectfully, they actually listen. So that's why I give props to the movie, that they actually did something good, and I'm glad that they did it. And I don't know, just claps to everyone behind this movie, to everyone who participated in it, to every man who feel like they actually have to fight this fight. Because like I said, feminism to me is not just for women, it's also for men, it's for freedom, it's for equality, it's for people to not be mistreated. As simple as that. So if you're a man, if you're a woman, if you're non-binary, whoever you are out there, if you support feminism, if you support, I don't know, human beings being treated like they should be treated, you know, like humans, like with kindness and care and love. Thank you so much for thinking that way, for making this kind of media, for making these kinds of books. Keep making them, keep talking about the things that matter. And always remember that we have to educate people respectfully. We need to educate people respectfully, because you cannot force education. You have to make it happen in a way in which people feel centered and loved when it happens. So that's it. That's pretty much it. I'm sorry for this, because it's truly scattered, but it's just how it came out and where it's how it's going to stay. Thank you for so much for paying attention to me, if you had. And anyways, just watch the movie. Seriously, watch the movie, and if you have, tell me your thoughts about it on the comments. Be respectful, you know, be kind, and just that, be kind every day, because we need it. We need the world to be constructed by people who actually want to do better, and who want to be better not just for themselves, but because they're tired of injustices, and they want to see a world filled with good things, not just all the bad that happens. So that's it. Like I said, comment, tell me what you thought. I would love to read you. And anyways, that's it. Always remember to be positive, kind, and curious. That is my cue to leave. So goodbye, have a good day, and be kind to yourself, and be kind to others.